Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going to tackle the National Pension System's Tier II account. Now, that's a name you might have heard thrown around, but what is it really? And, the most important question, is it actually right for you? Let's dive in and find out. Okay, probably the easiest way to think about the NPS system is to imagine two siblings. You've got Tier 1, which is kind of like the older, super responsible one. It's got strict rules, a ton of responsibilities, and long-term commitments, like a lock-in period. And then you have Tier 2. That's the younger sibling. It's way more flexible, has a lot more freedom, and pretty much no lock-in. All right, so let's pop the hood on this younger sibling and see how it actually works. The very first thing you need to know is that it can't really go it alone. You absolutely have to have a Tier I account, the older sibling, before you can even think about opening a Tier 2. So once your account is up and running, you've basically got four main places to put your money. Think of them as different roads you can drive down. There's Scheme E, which is kind of like the fast lane. That's your equities, your stocks. High potential for growth, but, also higher risk. Then you have Scheme G, the slow, scenic route, super safe government securities. And filling out the middle, you've got corporate bonds in Scheme C and some alternative investments in Scheme A.
Now, this naturally leads to a really big question that every single investor has to ask themselves: how much risk are you actually comfortable with? And the good news is the NPS Tier 2 gives you two different ways to answer that. So with active choice, you are literally in the driver's seat. You get to decide the exact mix, the exact percentage that goes into stocks versus bonds, and so on. But if you're someone who'd rather just, set it and forget it, you can go for auto choice. This option is smart. It automatically makes your portfolio safer and more conservative as you get closer to retirement.
Now, this is where that younger sibling really gets to, break all the rules. Unlike the much more cautious Tier 1 account, which caps your equity exposure at 75%, Tier 2 lets you go all in. If you want to, you can put up to 100% of your money into stocks.
And really, that leads us right to the biggest, and I mean biggest, selling point of Tier 2, its incredible flexibility. There are no lock-in periods. There are no withdrawal restrictions. You can get to your money whenever you need it, which honestly makes it feel a lot more like a regular investment account.
Okay, so with all this talk about flexibility, you're probably wondering, how does this thing stack up against something we all know, like a mutual fund? Let's do a really quick side-by-side.
When we look at the debt side of things, the Tier 2 account really holds its own. Schemes C and G have historically invested in super safe AAA-rated bonds. What does that mean in simple terms? It just means there's a very low chance that the companies or government you're lending money to won't pay you back. And here's the kicker. Because of this focus on safety and super low costs, these NPS schemes have often, historically, delivered better returns than a lot of similar debt mutual funds.
But you know how it is with siblings, right? The younger one might have all the freedom, but they often miss out on some of the perks the older one gets. And in the world of finance, perks almost always means tax benefits. So let's see how that plays out here, because this is where the picture starts to change.
And here it is, the big one. Unlike its big brother, the Tier 1 account, there are zero tax breaks for putting money into a Tier 2 account. None. The money you invest won't do anything to help you lower your tax bill for the year.
And believe it or not, the cat gets even bigger when you actually make some money. Any profits, any gains you make from your Tier 2 investments are just lumped right in with your regular annual income. And what does that mean? It means they get taxed at whatever your personal income tax slab rate is.
Now, to really see why this matters, let's look at other investments. With equity mutual funds, for example, if you hold them for the long term, your gains get taxed at a much, much friendlier rate.
But with NPS Tier 2, whoa, your gains could be taxed at your slab rate, which, if you're in a higher tax bracket, could be 30% or even more. That's a huge chunk of your profits just gone. It can really eat into your returns.
Now, you might have heard some chatter about a little trick, a potential loophole, right? The idea is you move money from Tier 2 to the tax-free Tier 1 right before you take it out. But, and this is a big but, the experts we've looked at are all saying the same thing: be really, really careful with this. It's a gray area, and that little loophole might not be open forever, so you definitely shouldn't bank on it.
So, after all that, the flexibility, the comparisons, and that big glaring tax issue, we're back to the big question. Who should actually consider using the NPS Tier 2 account? Is this thing for you?
All right, let's do a quick recap of the essentials. First, you gotta have a Tier 1 account to even get started. The huge plus, it's super flexible. No lock-ins, no minimums. The huge minus, no tax benefits. And the way your gains get taxed can be pretty brutal. At the end of the day, you should really think of it as just another tool in your toolbox, an alternative to something like a mutual fund for specific goals.
So the final question really is for you to answer. Does this flexible, kind of rebellious younger sibling actually fit into your financial family? The answer, of course, is going to depend entirely on your own goals and your own tax situation. We really hope this breakdown helped make sense of the NPS Tier II account. If it did, do us a favor and hit that like button, and of course subscribe for more explainers just like this one.